Hey guys, it's your girl Boonie, and you're listening to episode 134 of the Boonie Breakdown Podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. All right, so let's get into this week's episode. Before we get there, I do want to take some time to thank all of you guys for continuing to listen during this time. I know schedules have changed, routines are changed. A lot of you guys listen at work during your commute. I'm actually a podcast listener at work, and not being able to have that routine has kind of thrown me off. And so I do appreciate all of you guys taking the time to listen, to binge, catch up on past episodes. I know I took a break from having invited guests on the podcast. And the last few episodes were all kind of Boonie and friends with, some of the regulars here. And so this week is the first episode in a while where I'm having an invited guest, but you guys are going to love her. We had an amazing conversation. And so this week's guest is Dr. Wendasha Jenkins Hall, also known as the Sensible Sexpert, and she is a dynamic sexuality expert who provides a fresh, shameless take on love, sex, and relationships. And she also helps women and femmes embrace their sexuality, take charge of their health, and prioritize their pleasure. Right up our avenue here at the Boonie Breakdown. She's been featured in Cosmo and Essence, Oprah Magazine, Shape, Health. Look, she has the receipts. We have a bomb conversation about all of these great things, right? And so you want to stick around for that conversation. All right. Now we're getting into Boonie's pick of the week. It's you guys, right? And I'm going to take this time for a small PSA, because not being naive to what's going around right now and how everyone's coping. And I know for me personally, it seems like the COVID-19 deaths are hitting closer and closer to home, right? And so someone who was a Twitter friend passed. I saw things on Facebook where people lost their loved ones. My mom told me about someone she knew that their husband is in the hospital. And I just feel like these things are getting closer and closer. And it's kind of taking over the feed, and you're trying to protect your mental. And so I told a friend, look, if you are still blessed right now to have the ability to be working from home, do not feel guilty in taking a vacation day. If you need to take several days to protect your mental health, even if it's to do nothing, I know we can't go anywhere, but to not have to connect to work. I know I am scheduled to take some days off soon, because I never go this long working straight, like going 2 months without taking a day. That's unheard of for me. And so for all of us who are trying to maintain sanity, to maintain some level of normalcy in this weird space we're in right now, kudos to you. I commend you. But again, if you need to take a fucking day off work and you can, use your vacation day and take one. And don't feel bad about it. And do not log on. Do not let them call you. If work calls your phone, do not answer, because I feel like for people who this working from home, this is new for you. It gets blurred when your house has become the school, the cafeteria, your job, the gym, the hair salon, that the lines are really blurred. So when you take that day, do not let work creep in there. All right. So stay healthy, stay sane, and stay safe, guys. Okay. All right, let's get into housekeeping. The feedback from last week's episode 133, which is a solo episode with me. You guys really loved my rants. I really did go off on a rant. I think last week was kind of my snapping point with the whole social distancing and quarantining. But I do have a funny story really quickly, because in the rant, I talked about I missed my grooming and I missed getting a wax. And a podcast listener, I was looking at their Insta story the other evening, and they too missed their Brazilian. And I commend sister, because she was doing an excursion. I'm going to call it an excursion with her boo, where he was going to wax her. He was going to give her a Brazilian. Now, I don't know if I trust anybody besides the girl I pay to do my Brazilians. And it was just so funny. I'm like, how brave of you. How brave of you to let your man give you a Brazilian. I text that to someone, and they were like, You mean if you needed me to? Nope, I don't need you to. But otherwise, you guys all enjoyed the commentary and the laughs in that episode. So thank you for listening. Also, we're still on our quest for 100 5-star reviews over in the Apple Podcast app. You guys, I love you long time. If you could just head on over there, it's 5 easy steps for 5 stars for Boonie. We're almost there, guys. I appreciate everyone who has left a review so far. You guys are killing it. And right now, I'm going to read one from the Dean of Fashion and Beauty. This podcast is certainly my kind of carrying on. She discusses current events, facilitates spicy combos on topics ranging from dating and relationships to finance and budgeting, and of course, she sprinkles some raunchy yet safe sex talk throughout. Boonie does all these things with such poise and grace that she has become one of my besties in my head. The ratchet in me has honored the ratchet in her from day one. Ho my stay. What a review, guys. So thank you to the Dean of Fashion and Beauty. Love you, girl, for that bomb 5-star review. And if you want to be included and have your review read on the Boonie Breakdown podcast, head on over to the Purple app, Apple Podcast app on all Apple devices to leave that 5-star review. We're almost at 100, guys. Almost there. So if a few more of you can just go in there and hit that. You don't even have to write a review. You can just hit the 5 stars and bounce. That counts too. All right? So thank you much. Also, the code for merchandise, Rona15, Rona, all capital letters 15. You can get your Boonie Breakdown merch for, I think the code is good through April 30th, 2020. All right, it's 15% off all orders over $20. And thank you for you guys who have done some purchases. And as always, you know, the fun for me happens over on Instagram. So if you are not following us, you can head on over to Instagram and Facebook and follow at the Boonie Breakdown. If you are on Twitter, you can follow just at Boonie Breakdown. All right. And when sharing this episode, please be sure to tag us. Use the hashtag the Boonie Breakdown and the hashtag PODIN, PODIN. Share it in your Insta story. Let everyone know that you are listening to us. And help us keep spreading the word during this time of quarantine and chill. People got time. They can listen to a new podcast. So again, thank you so much. I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode with Dr. Wendasha Hall. So let's get ready to break it down. All right, guys, it's your girl Boonie, and I'm excited for my guest this week. It's always fun to have a soror come on. I love when I spot that my guest is a soror. I don't talk about my sorority much on here, but shout out to the good deltas. And I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Wendasha Hall, who is a sexuality expert. So welcome to the Boonie Breakdown.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited because I always get these listener questions, and then sometimes they're kind of like out of control, like just what should I do? I'm messing up my life. I think my favorite one so far this year was this girl. Like I can't remember what. I'll have to send you the link if you care. But like she was trapping her boyfriend on a dating app
Oh,
because she knew
wow.
he was cheating, and so it was a whole ordeal. So
Oh, goodness.
some of those I'm like, we don't need an expert, but some other ones I'm like, you know what, we're gonna leave this one for an expert. And so I do have 2 listener questions. So if you sent in any Ask Boonie questions, they will be getting answered in this episode. So
Yay.
one is pretty exciting. I'm excited for this one. But first, I just wanted to let people get to know you a little bit. And if you could tell everyone, like, I'm always intrigued when I have people come on who are sexuality experts, who are sexologists, sex educators. And I always have to ask, how did you end up in this space?
Oh, wow. So I've actually been in this space for about 16 years. So I started in the sexuality field when I was 16 years old because I'm
Oh,
32 right now.
wow.
But I started possibly, I would say, traditional route, going and doing like HIV/AIDS education. So that's what I was doing when I
Okay.
was 16 in my hometown. And from there, I went on to school. I came and I guess was trained as a researcher. So I went on all through grad school, PhD, and all of that. But how I got to the other side of which I would say sexuality education, um, really what happened was that when I was doing my research, I would get a lot of different questions. So questions that had nothing to do with my research. My research is focused on HIV/AIDS prevention, Black women, sexual behavior, sexual risk factors, all of that stuff you will read about in the academic world. But people were asking me just regular questions like, so what would happen if I did this with my boyfriend, or what would happen if I did
Mm,
that with my girlfriend? And I was like, well, these are questions that I can answer, and this is the fun side of sex education, so why not do it? And
yeah.
so from there, I was doing it informally all throughout my schooling. And then one day I was just like, okay, I'm just going to start the Sensible Sexpert and just have people ask me all the questions they want to ask. And I will just provide all the education that they need in an accessible manner. Because a lot of times, sex ed is not accessible to people. Um, so that's really how I got started in this field. It was kind of by happenstance, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just always so fascinating. Like, if something occurred or it was this weird story and it was like, oh, this is it. So I think you, like you said, yours is a more traditional route into it.
Yeah.
But what I love, and I've been following you for some time on Instagram, what I love about the work that you put out is that it is in a non threatening way, right? And I think
Yes.
to this day, sex is still a taboo topic, like,
Yes. Yes,
which
it
blows my
is.
mind. And, but I think the way you present information, it's very non threatening, but it's also, I mean, you said it, a sensible sexpert. Like, it is very just easy to digest.
Digest.
Like, oh, that,
Yes.
yeah. And so that is what I hope people get out of this conversation with you today is like, you don't have to be afraid to talk about sex.
Not at all.
And
Yes.
I think that is why, like, I've mentioned this in past episodes. We've talked about the pleasure gap,
Mm-hmm.
which is so frustrating for me, and it's for Black women in particular.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
because
Yes.
life is so stressful, and especially with things that are happening today, with everything we're taking in and trying to social distance and all of this stuff, that you should speak up for your pleasure.
Yes. I always say that your pleasure is your responsibility.
Oh, say that
And
again.
yes, so your pleasure is your responsibility. It's just like when you get into relationships, people always say that you can't expect your partner to be the source of your happiness. It's the same thing when it comes to sex. You have to take ownership of that. And like you said, a
Mm,
lot of times as women, we're trained or we're conditioned, should I say, not to speak up. We're conditioned to be nurturers and pleasers, and that's what we're expected to do and be in the relationship. So we're expected to please our partner, we're expected to nurture them, make sure they feel good, but then we're left sitting on the sidelines when it comes to our pleasure and our orgasm. So
yes.
yeah, we have to really just take ownership of it.
And I will say it is very it is a daunting task. The
Hmm.
first time I had to do it, I've definitely been, and not to say like I'm above everybody else, but I've definitely been in the past where I'm like, oh my God, I faked it. Right. And then I
Yes.
got to the point where it's like, you have to stop faking it because I feel like women are out here faking it. Their partners are like, yeah, I'm the shit.
Yes. Yes. You got
They
a
go
lot
to
of
the
inflated
next woman.
egos for no reason. Yes.
Yes. And it's like, you talking all this shit. And what? This is what just
Yes.
happened. And so
Yes. So
I think when I had that determination, it was like, okay, I am no longer faking it.
yes, because we got to do other people a favor out here in these streets. So if we're faking it, that means we're letting this person go off with their trash sex game to the next person, and they're thinking that they're just a bum, but it was just a lot of women or whoever just really stroking their ego and hoping that it don't hurt their feelings. So,
Yes.
but yeah, so if we speak up, we would possibly kind of can get over some of this trash sex that is happening.
Yeah,
Because
I
yeah,
just could not do it. Like I think that was my step one. It was okay. I'm not gonna fake orgasms anymore. Like
yes,
I'm just not gonna do it. And then it was just like, okay, I'm not doing performative sex. All right, so I'm not
hmm
sitting here like. And then it was like, okay, now you have to say something,
yeah,
all right?
you
Because
can't be
I'm not.
silent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, what's good? What's to come out of this? Like, this is boring. This is a waste of time. And so I
Mhm.
remember my first conversation with a guy and saying, him expecting me to do all of these theatrics or whatever.
Oh
And
goodness.
Yeah, and like me having to say, so actually,
But
and
it's
I remember it,
funny because,
it
oh,
was just
go ahead.
very like, no, but I'm just saying, like, I was just very like, oh God, I have to do this now. And then I did it and we all lived,
But you
right?
know that performative nature, a lot of times it comes from watching porn. So when we
Yeah.
were growing up, we see our first porn and the woman is just screaming her just to the top of her lungs. Everything feels good, every stroke, everything. She comes and it fireworks, and then you realize when you get in the bedroom, it's not really all like that. So, but a
Yes.
lot of people expect it to be that way, though. A lot of people do expect it to be the mind blowing, screaming sex every time.
And I'm currently like Sex in the City is one of my favorite TV shows, and I'm
Uh huh.
laughing because I'm doing a rewatch of it right now. I hadn't rewatched it, so I started at season 1, episode 1, and two things stood out to me. I'm like, fuck. I'm their age now, right? So when the
Okay.
show started, they were like 30, 31. And I'm like, fuck, I'm 35. Like, I remember sneaking and watching this when I was like
Yes.
16, 17, babysitting because they had HBO and I didn't have HBO home. So I'm like, oh my God. And then two, I'm watching these sex scenes and it would be, even for a show that was so progressive at the time, I still feel like in some of their sex scenes they did a disservice. Like it was that performative, like, ah,
Yes.
like, and I'm watching this like every time you have sex, every time you have sex. Okay,
Yes, but you have to make it entertaining for the audience. So
yeah, I
you
know.
want to, you don't want to see a sex scene on TV or the point everybody's just silent and just like ooh, like you kind of want to see it because then you'll be underwhelmed. But well, we have to, I guess, really section that off from real life though. But yeah,
Yeah. But that's what I thought. I was like, okay, I remember watching this when I was 16, 17. Like, this is how it's supposed to be, right?
yes,
And
yes.
now it's like, wait, that's not how it goes
No, not at
all the
all.
time. Yeah.
Not at
So
all.
So for someone like a woman who's listening to this, like, yeah, I'm here, I'm still laying there doing all this, and I'm not satisfied. Like, what would you recommend to them? Like the first a way for them to encourage or start the conversation with their partner to say, "Hey, look, I think we should try some new things because it's not working for me."
Mhm. So that's funny because I get asked that question all the time. And the first thing I ask them is, what feels good to you? And the reason
Mm.
why I ask that is because a lot of women will say that they're not satisfied. But then when you ask, okay, so what parts of your body are the most sensitive that you love to be touched, stroked, kissed, sucked, or whatever? And sometimes they can't tell you. So it's
Ah,
like, so how can you expect any type of pleasure or expect your partner to know what feels good to you if you don't know what feels good to you? So I feel like sexual pleasure, it starts with you. So it starts with exploring your body. I am a big proponent of masturbation. I feel like
me
everyone
too.
should explore their body. You know what feels good to you, and it's a safe space, right? So if you're by yourself, you like, okay, so I like my nipples being, pinched a little bit, and I know how much pressure I like, or I like clitoral stimulation, but I don't like it too much. Like, so you can start, filling yourself out. And so when you're ready and okay, this is who I am, this is how my body works, then you can go into having a conversation with your partner.
Yes.
So it starts with yourself first, because you can't say, I want to spice it up. And then they say, well, how? What do you want? And then you're looking crazy. Right. So,
Like, I don't
so
know. I don't know.
yeah, like please me. I don't know what I want, but just please me. So that would get nowhere. So once that happens and you figure out what feels good to you, figure out if you're a sex toy person or not, because not everybody's into sex toys, or you figure out just those things or how you like to be stroked, then you can have that conversation with your partner. And it shouldn't be an awkward conversation, right? It shouldn't be right after you just had sex or anything like that,
Mm.
because you don't want nobody feeling like, dang, my sex game was just trash. Even if it was, you can coach them through that. But it really is saying, hey, I always say, start off something with a compliment. So say something that you like that they're doing, like, okay, I like the way you stroke me wherever, however, I was thinking possibly if you can lick me here next time or touch me there next time. You can make it a sexy conversation. And even during the process of having sex, guide your partner to help your partner explore your body. right? So guide their hands. So if you like to be touched in between your thighs, guide their hands there. Talk a little sexy and seductive to them, asking, hey, can you kiss me here? Can you
Mm.
lick me there? And you're just making it a part of the act. So what you're doing is you're ensuring that you're getting the touch and the stroke that you want so that you can have or get to the orgasms that you want to have. So that's really how you can start off talking to your partner. It doesn't have to be a text, hey, we need to talk when you come home tonight, or anything like that. You don't want to make it awkward where you're sitting down on the couch, like, hey, I haven't been satisfied with our sex lately, and I think we need to. No, that you don't want to make it awkward. So, really, you can make it sexy. I'm all about making things sexy because sex can be awkward anyway, right?
Yes,
So,
it
really,
can.
just making it sexy. And then also asking your partner what feels good to them, because I do realize that sometimes it's when we think our sex game is bomb, but we may be falling off a little bit too if we're not also considering what our partners believe feels good to them. So if they like to be stroked or touched a certain way, ask them to share that with you so that you all can, really be in unison when you're having sex. So that's really how I would go about having those conversations.
I love all those tips. My audience knows I'm always saying touch yourself.
Yes. Touch yourself.
And it's funny
Yes.
because even myself, like I like certain types of sex toys and I don't like others. Like
Hmm.
I don't like dildos or usually insertion, but I like vibration, all
Yes.
that stuff. So I had to figure that out. Like,
Yes.
so I'm a big proponent in masturbation as well. And I remember I do on Instagram I do these things like Would You Rather Wednesdays, which is really fun in Insta story.
Hmm.
And one of them was like, Would you rather? It was like something about mutual masturbation
Okay.
and somebody was like, ew, that's gross. And I'm like, that is such a dope way to see how your partner likes to be touched.
Yes.
And they can see how you like to be touched.
Yes, yes, yes. And that also works good now, especially since we're in quarantine. You and your
Yes.
partner can have a session there on the other end. You can use Skype, Google Hangouts, so that is working. That is really getting a lot of people over the hump,
Yes.
right now.
Cause I'm not I am struggling because the my partner and I do not live together.
Hmm.
And we were sitting here like the governors in our area have shut down. We're like shelter in place or whatever.
Yes.
So we were trying to like figure out what does that actually mean. So
Yes.
I'm like I've definitely technology has come to the rescue
Yes.
during this trying time.
Because unfortunately, the dick appointment is not an essential service according to the government.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's bullshit. It was a meme and I've been sharing it on Instagram. And it's like a lady getting locked up by a cop and it's like, you must stay in your house, ma'am. Dick is not essential.
not yes. For some, it is a life source, but in this time, no, it's not essential. It's not the grocery store, even though we wish it was. But
Ugh, don't I wish? So since we've got started down this path, you can't not talk about the virus going around right now. And
yes.
so we've started, saying technology is a great way.
Hmm.
But I know we're just talking about sex, and sex is amazing when it's amazing, it's amazing. But it's not the end all be all. And
No.
so I've seen on your page you've discussed intimacy a lot, intimacy
Hmm.
building. And so, what
Yes.
are some tips that you would give couples, or people who are in arrangements or whatever, where they can keep the intimacy alive or still develop intimacy during this time where they might be separated because they don't live together
Hmm.
at the moment?
It's so funny because like all my posts this week are going to be about that. So about New Year's living.
Wonderful.
But yes, right. So one thing I would say, like you have to, if you are able to, you have to use technology. You have to keep that on your side because it's not like how it was back in the day where all we had was a telephone and we could just talk and just fall asleep talking to each other. I'm probably aging myself, but but those were the days. But really understanding that it's okay to use anything that's at your resource. So text messaging, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, really setting up dates through this technology. And I know people are like, how do you set up dates? Well, I know it may sound silly, but hey, if you both share a show that you want to watch on Netflix, want to binge, you can call that person up on FaceTime or Google Hangouts and you all can watch it together, right? That's
Mm.
a date. Or if you are music lovers, I know my husband and I, we used to just sit and listen to music together and just talk. So you could call that person up. It can be over the phone, it can be Skype, it can be Hangouts, and you could just listen to music together.
Oh,
And
love
you can really
it.
connect that way, listen to your favorite songs. And also, one thing I suggested for couples who are in house, but also works for those who are apart, play a game of 21 questions. I really love the 21
Ah,
questions game. So while you're talking on the phone, you ask each other different questions like, if you were the last person on earth, what would you do or whatnot? So just just do that because you never know how much you can learn about your partner, right? So we ask a lot of questions at the beginning
this
of the
is true.
relationship, but we think we know everything about them. But during this time, you will possibly find out some unique things or some crazy things that are going through your partner's mind during this time. And also, just have those check ins. I say have a daily check in, even if you can't talk, quick text message. How are you doing? How are you feeling? How are everything like how are things going right now? And let them be open and vulnerable to you because a lot of times people are feeling anxious,
Yeah.
stress, people are isolated, lonely. So just really being that person that they can open up to and you make space for that. And like I said, we were talking about earlier, and when you get a little sexy or in the mood, use the technology. You could send you some nudes. I would suggest not putting your face in it, just in case. I hope your person would not send that stuff out, but send some sexy pictures, send some sexy text, right? We have all these services where you can send a nice little short video and it'll be gone after 24 hours or whatnot. So
Yep.
use that to your disposal. Just stay connected that way.
I also saw a tip and I thought this was kind of genius, but I'm with you too. If you're exchanging um, pictures with someone, you would like to think that person would not violate you in such a way. And in some states, it's illegal to do so. But
Yeah.
this person said, watermark the nude that you send the person with their name. So if it ever got leaked,
Oh
you know
wow.
who leaked it. And I was like, I mean, that is genius, but I would hope that you wouldn't have to do that, but you never know. But I thought that
Oh
was,
my goodness. I've never heard of that. That I could see that working, but also so if you watermark and keep your face out of it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
if it was to get leaked, you could always say, "Oh, see, no, that's not me. That's not my."
That's not me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And always, too, like if you have tattoos and stuff, you should, yeah.
Yes, yeah, you can kind of like, well, if you're heavily tatted, it might not work. But yeah, so you make sure you get that nice back shot. You can have your night wear a wig if you want to. You could be any person you want to be to spice it up. So it's like, no,
Yeah.
I had that's a red weave. No, I got a short pixie black cut. That's not me. That no,
That ain't me.
yeah. But yeah, but those are just really great ways, like I said, to stay connected because like I said, especially if you live alone, you don't have roommates and you're in
Yeah.
two different places, this is a very isolating time.
Yeah,
But you can
and
get
it's funny.
closer
I
though.
like like I like living alone. I like solitude. And so it is like I find myself just even with my friends, like FaceTiming more than I
Yes,
would normally, just because I just want to
yes,
see your face. And so, somebody I was talking to, this guy, we were on the phone. I was like, "Hey, can I FaceTime you?" And so we ended up being on FaceTime for like 2 hours one
yes.
afternoon, and it was great. Like, and we didn't even realize it had been that long. But you forget that you're holding a phone or your iPad or whatever. But
Yeah, and I think, even though this is a crazy time, I think that it's good for us to be coming together like that because I know I was that person that I never picked up the phone, but I always text.
hmm,
So now texting is not enough, right? So
it's
you're
not.
now because you used to just be able to text and be like, okay, we'll meet up at brunch or we'll meet up at whatever, but you don't have that option anymore, right? So it's
Yep.
forcing us to really talk. It's really forcing us to strengthen our relationships with each other.
I do.
So yeah.
I think so. Even though it is difficult and we want to go outside and it's springtime and getting warm, the days are longer. Like there are some bonuses to this
Hmm.
being quarantined or whatever. And I think for me, that is one. It's been no rushing. We don't have to go anywhere.
Yes. Hmm.
I'm not driving. I'm not stressed. And so, even like my best friend, I hadn't talked to her in a while. And we were on the phone the other night for 4 hours. I can't tell you the last time I was on the phone with her for 4 hours.
Yes.
It was really so yeah, things like that I'm really enjoying. Now don't get me wrong, I can't wait till we get back in the house, but but it's like we go so
Yes.
much that I'm actually really appreciative of this slowdown. And so
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna take my time, and I'm in a position where I'm blessed to be able to work from home. I'm still getting paid, so it's not. I don't have those stresses.
Yes.
So not to be callous to someone in that situation, but for
Yeah.
me,
And we can just be
yeah,
more mindful about, what we're doing. And so, like you say, even with your, like, if whether you're in the house with your boyfriend, husband, or whoever, or away, you could just be more mindful about your interactions, right?
yes,
Because you don't have that many distractions anymore. Even though people are like, oh, you have Netflix, but you can't. Well, some people can't watch Netflix all day, but you kind of get it. Kind of gets
I
old.
don't.
So you
Yeah,
have to be creative. You have to start being creative in how you're interacting.
I didn't turn my TV on today until it was like 8:15, like right before we were about to record. And it was
Mhm.
only because I was eating and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get tired. So I turned the TV on. I was like, I have to record at 9. And then I turned it off when we started recording, and I probably won't turn it on again. I've gone like
Yes.
over the weekend, Saturday, I didn't turn my TV on at all.
Hmm.
So if I get mad, I pay this high ass cable bill. But yeah, so but yeah, I've been noticing like I haven't even been turning to TV as much as I thought I would.
Hmm.
But that's just me. I don't mind the silence or just playing music. So
Yes. So
um
nice
yeah, but I
call.
like the ideas of the games. I'm gonna do a little bit more of those.
Also, reading. I know it may sound corny, but reading a book together,
Yeah, how
like
you do that? Yeah, I'm like, how you do that?
so if you're both readers, it works. So it's kind of like you kind of have a book club, or you could just sit and read them passages from a book. Because I get these books that are kind of like crazy, and I'm like, oh my god, what's going on in this book? And then I will read it
Ah.
to my husband. Like, there's this one book he brought me called Adultery. Yeah, don't ask why he brought me a book called Adultery, but it's a crazy book with this crazy plot line, and I just
Is
sit.
that a movie?
No,
Did they
no,
did they
is
make
it?
it a movie?
I don't know if they made it into a movie.
Because I swear somebody was just showing. I'm not gonna give it if you even started the book, but somebody had just showed me a clip and it was wild. And I think the movie was called Adulterers.
I don't know. So possibly, but yeah. So he brought me this book, and so I started reading, and I was like, "This is foolish." And so he was like, "What are you talking about?" And so I would sit there and literally read him passages from the book, and we would laugh and just talk about what's going on in the book. And sometimes we just sit and laugh at foolishness we see on Instagram. So that's one thing,
Mm,
like sending each other memes throughout the day, just saying, did you see this? And just, hanging out, just looking at Instagram. Those things really can draw you closer together. Even though they may seem mundane,
yeah.
intimacy doesn't have to always be something that's so deep where you're talking about, tell me what you see when you look into my eyes tonight. Like, it doesn't have to always be that deep. It can just be something so simple. It's just really about coming together and being open, vulnerable, light with each other.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm just listening to you say that. I'm to my like, how you gonna read a book together? Because I just had to. I was just like, oh, I got the text. Watch this on Netflix, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. Same thing. Send me the
Same
Amazon.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, send me the Amazon link. All right, I'm gonna send this book to your house. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, you right. You right, sis. So changing gears a little bit. Um, I got these two Ask Boonie questions.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go there, I kind of want you to do a short lesson. Because
Okay.
I think people really get confused between kinks and fetishes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, can you just explain, like, what's the difference between a kink and what's a fetish?
Okay. So first I'm going to break down a kink.
Okay.
So a kink is any sexual behavior that is considered outside the norm of typical sexual behavior. And normal is a very wide ranging definition because what's normal to some may not be normal to others. So, for example, kink can be a person who, when they have sex, they like getting spanked, or they
Okay.
like their hair pulled, or when they have sex, they like to incorporate foods like whipped cream, chocolate sauce, cherries, all of that. Those things can be considered kinky, right? But when we think of normal, quote unquote, normal or vanilla sex, like, okay, man on top, woman on top, or doggy style, laying on the side. Like, you're just your typical, what you would consider average sex, right?
Okay.
So anything outside of that, if, that we consider quote unquote not normal, like I said, normal is very subjective, but that is what is considered like, so a kink. So a person who likes to wear their high heels in bed and, really always wearing the lingerie and being spanked or just things like, so that's kink, right? So that's really what it is. However, a fetish is different in that it really is a person, or a person has a real attachment to an object. So when I say they
Okay.
have attachment to an object, that means it can be a shoe, it can be latex, it can be whatever you can just imagine. Just think of any object, it can be a fetish. So what they do, they need that object in order to really experience sexual pleasure. So they need to touch that object, they need to feel it on their bodies, they need to smell it, need
Mm.
it to be in the room, and that is a great source of their sexual pleasure. So,
Okay.
like when you have people who are like, okay, I have a foot fetish. So their sexual pleasure is really around that foot. So touching the feet, kissing
They want to
them,
rub it, like,
sucking,
okay, got
rubbing,
you.
and lick. So that is your fixation, right? Or a person who can have a balloon fetish that is real. So they want the balloons rubbed on their bodies. They want to feel the balloon. They want to taste the balloon. That they really have that fixation on that one object, right? So that is really what we call a fetish behavior, right?
Okay.
So it can be, like I said, a fetish can be anything. So like I said, it can go from feet all the way to shoes, it can be balloons, it can be stuffed animals, you name it, it probably is a fetish that
Fetish.
somebody has, right?
Okay, I didn't know about the balloons. I learned
Yeah.
something new there.
So,
I
but
did.
I always say every fetish is a kink, but every kink is not a fetish, right?
Okay.
So just because I like to be spanked and my hair pulled and I'm and choked during sex sometimes doesn't mean that that's something that I want every time I have sex, right?
Got it.
Versus a
Okay.
person who may have a shoe fetish. Every time they have sex with their partner, they want that person to have a certain
Shoe
shoe
on.
on, right?
Gotcha.
Or they want that person to have balloons in the bed with them, or they want that person to be dressed as a pony because that is a fetish also. So, you
So
know,
I got a question. What is the balloon fetish called? Is there a name for that?
I just know it as a balloon fetish.
Okay, I just didn't know
Um,
if it had some type of name.
so like I just it probably is a name out there, but like so you can have like a balloon fetish, you can have a shoe fetish, you can have a latex fetish. It's a fetish called furry fetish. So
Oh, I've seen
yeah,
that.
so
I've
like they're
seen
dressed
that.
up like the big furry animals. So
Yes, I've
yeah,
definitely seen that.
yeah, so that's so it just all depends on what you have, but you do have some other, feel what we really call it philias. So philias are those things, are those objects that we're really attracted to, and that's a
Okay.
psychological term. It's called paraphilias. But fetishes aren't considered a psychological impairment unless it's really disrupting your everyday life, right?
Okay.
So like the more extreme philias, like of course, like we hear philia like pedophilia, yeah, that's
Yeah.
illegal. Or you hear it's like bestiality, people who have sex with animals or crave that,
Yeah.
that's illegal. So that's when you get into what we call paraphilic behavior. That
And
is,
I think that's the crazy thing too. It's like sex as itself is already a taboo topic, but then when you get into
mhm,
these niches,
mhm.
sometimes it's like that's even more taboo because I'm sitting here just listening to you talk about the balloon fetish. I'm trying to imagine how I would respond if I was with a partner and they're like, "Girl, we got had this balloon in the bed," and I'm gonna be like, you know, I'm usually very open minded, but that's gonna jar me a little bit. Like a balloon, okay,
Yes,
all
yes.
right.
And I think the yeah, I think the balloon fetish, they're called, I think they're called lunars, like balloon, like lunar. But yeah, so
I like it.
you have some people who have a diaper fetish, like some
I've
like to
seen that
be, so
too.
yeah, so it's yeah, so you have a lot of different fetishes out there. But like I said, that's their normal, right? So what may
Yeah,
not be normal for you, that is normal for them.
for
And it's
someone else. Yeah,
yeah, so but as long as it's not like really disrupting their everyday life and it's like, oh, I can't function without really having these balloons and I'm psychologically depressed. Like, yeah, that's when it becomes a problem. Other than that, hey, if you love balloons, hey, go for it.
go for it. Oh my god, that's so crazy. I couldn't imagine before we move on. Like I couldn't imagine like if it was somebody who was like, I have a balloon fetish, but the balloon fetish is like popping balloons. Oh my god, I would die.
That is now that
Just
is for some people. Some people like to pop the balloons. They like to feel the
yeah, I'm
balloons.
sure
Yeah.
that is like some type of buildup. Oh, that is wild. That just made me like shiver. And not that I'm turned on, but I'm just like I couldn't even imagine like for someone if that's their thing. Like, whoa, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But I also think too, like people just interchange that so much that they've just become synonymous with each other. I think for common people, not people who live in those world, like at least a fetish world.
Hmm.
Um, but I just even some of the language that I get from people, I'm like people really don't know that difference, and so I was like, let me use this as a chance to educate. So
Okay.
now y'all know, and we're clear. So
Yes.
I got two letters.
Okay.
The first one, I'm trying to think which one I want to do first. Okay, I'm gonna do this one first.
Okay.
Hey Boonie, love the show. Just wanted to get your thoughts on a threesome. I can't remember if you've ever said that you've done one on the show or not before, but I really would like to do one with my current partner, who is a guy. I would obviously like to have two guys, but I know that's not going to go. I would like to also try a threesome with another female as well. I figured we could start there. That might be easier for him to digest. If you
Mm,
could please share with me the rules of engagement for a threesome, how can I bring this up to my partner? And moving forward, how do we select our third and create a comfortable environment for all parties involved? Please help. Kelly.
great. First thing I would say, it takes planning. Okay. It's going to take some planning. So, first, sit down and have a conversation with your boyfriend. Like, says a dude, right? So, sit
Yep.
down and have a conversation with your boyfriend and really ask, you know, is he interested in a threesome and why? And then you tell him why you're interested in the threesome. And then from there, you tell him what type of threesome you're into. So it seems like she's more comfortable starting with two females and a male, and then possibly
Yeah.
going on to two males and a female. But just start there and to really gauge his reaction. And then once he's down, if he said he's good and you all talk that through, then together you should go out and find a partner to have this threesome with. I don't suggest going out getting a stranger. I really don't suggest that.
No.
No, I do not. I'm not saying that it needs to be one of your best friends. I'm not saying that either. But when I say I don't suggest a stranger, I mean I don't suggest that you and your boyfriend get drunk one day and then you go out to the club and just pick up a random person to have a threesome with. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So, because I feel like sometimes when people have threesomes, they get so caught up on themselves and their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and they kind of treat the third person like a toy or like an object.
Ah.
But that person has feelings too. That person has boundaries also. So, you need to talk to them and have a conversation. because even though we think threesomes are so like natural, like on TV, it's like, oh, you just start kissing and everybody is all in love and we're gonna have sex and have this beautiful moment. There are a lot of rules that people put in place around threesomes. So when I've talked to many people, they'll say, okay, I'm not comfortable with my boyfriend kissing the other woman, so he can't kiss her, or I'm not comfortable with him going down on her, or I'm not
Yeah.
comfortable with him having sex with her in this position. So those are things that have to be discussed, and you have to make sure that the person that you're bringing in is okay with the boundaries or the rules that you put in place.
You know, I could totally see that. I have not had a threesome. I've been asked to be a third. I was my funniest situation with the threesome is I felt like the guy that I was having sex with at the time
Hmm.
kind of was trying to do a surprise threesome attack on me.
Wow.
And I was like, for real? Like, so like I show up at his house and it was on, he lived in another city and I just happened to be in town. So I was the toxic one sending the, hey, I'm in your city text. And he's like, oh, sure, pull up. And I get there and it's a girl there. And I'm like, but you know what we do? Like, what? What? And so he's like, oh, come on in, like the bedroom. And she's laying on the bed. And I'm like, okay, so I'm sitting there talking, and then he's like, "Come on, you. Why are you sitting all the way over there?" And I was like, "For real? Like this was happening?" So we didn't
Yeah.
do it,
Hmm.
and I felt like he would have been a good person to do it with, but for all the things you just said, like if you had discussed it with me, um, maybe we picked somebody that I was attracted to. I was not attracted to
Yes.
her.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I felt like all those things he might have got what he wanted, but
But yeah,
that was the only time I've never done a threesome.
yeah, and I
And
think
now I
that
kind of feel like I don't want to say I'm aging out of it, but I feel like with certain people, my rules will be very strict to the point where it would be like, well, why are we even doing this?
Yeah, but but I feel like a discussion should always happen. Of course, there are some people
Agree.
who kind of just fall into like the drunken threesome, or it kind of spur of the moment because the mood is just right and everything is in place. But I would say that's probably rare that that happens, especially
Yeah.
when you have a couple. So there have been, I know people who just three random people just happen to be friends and all of a sudden they had a threesome. But when it comes to a couple, there tends to be so many rules because nobody wants to start feeling jealous, and then you in the middle of the threesome and then somebody does something like, okay, wait, you got to stop this, you said that you wouldn't, like, so you really have to discuss it and plan it out, and that doesn't kill the
Yeah.
mood if you're gonna just, but you go into it knowing what to expect.
Yeah, I was definitely going to need some ground rules. Like, I think for me, if I were to do it, Miss Kelly, like for me personally, it would be I don't think I could let my partner kiss the other person either. I think no, that's just off limits. And
Mhm,
then I would have to think through some more rules, but
mhm.
I think it's just certain things I don't want to see my person do with someone else.
Yes. And then they will have to discuss it, what will happen if there was another man in the room,
Yeah,
right?
nah.
So I know there'll
Whew.
be probably some rules around that, or what will happen if we brought another man into the room and he kissed her boyfriend and then they started, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
well, hey, you never know. Like,
Yeah, it could
you're
happen,
just
right?
you're all in the moment. So, her boyfriend may be bisexual and she don't know, and then that happens, and but that's fine, like,
It's fine, but talk about fuck me up. I
so
wouldn't know what to do.
are you okay with, with that interaction, or is it going to be them just pleasing you, like one is giving you oral sex and you're giving the other person oral sex, like how would you like this interaction to go? These are all things that you will, have to understand or have to talk through, because you don't want to be caught
Yeah.
off, caught off guard. Sometimes you can be surprised a little bit. The other dude may kiss her boyfriend, and she be like, "Oh, that's hot. Let's keep this going."
Yeah,
Or
that I literally don't even know how would react to that.
because we don't think about it though,
Yeah, I
So
would be stunned. I
yeah,
would literally be stunned,
because
I
we think
believe.
when a threesome, when it's two women and a man, you expect the women to be sexual with each other, right? You expect a lot
Yeah.
of times the women to kiss and do all that, but you don't when you have two men and a woman. we don't really think about, okay, the two men enjoying each other sexually also. You just think about them just having sex with that one woman that's there. But you have to consider all possibilities.
Everybody, yeah. I always just felt like a male threesome with myself would just be a lot of work, right? Because in my mind, I'm not envisioning that my partner would be doing anything with the guy. And so I would have to be satisfying two penises. And I just feel like that's just a lot.
Well, that, yeah, if that's
But then, like, just listening to you, like, oh my God, what if some surprise, attraction happened that you didn't know about? And now you're sitting here just fucked up. I
well,
just think it would just be like, whoa, for me.
yeah,
I was
it
not
like if
planning on that.
consider all, you got to consider all possibilities, and then also know that in that threesome, you have to make your partner feel like they're safe and it's a safe space, that
Mm,
what's going on there you agreed to, and that, at the end, you don't go back trying to judge them for something that they did or hold something over their head. Like, oh, you looked a little too comfortable with this person, because you're doing this act.
yeah.
And I feel like if you're engaging in a threesome, there's a level of trust in your relationship anyway, or there should be a level of
Yeah.
trust. You shouldn't be having threesomes to save a relationship. So I feel like you just have to make sure that you're constantly checking in. And at any point, if you want to stop or the person needs to stop, you have to respect that too. So I don't really want to be a killjoy when it comes to threesomes. I'm not trying to be a killjoy. I'm
But
just
I
thinking about
think
it. I'm saying
you
all these things.
but I
But
think
yeah.
you're providing what's reality, right? Because like you said, everyone might have this picture in their mind of how it's gonna go, how it should go. I've also talked to people like friends that I know who've had surprise threesomes, which they wish were some planning, and then he couldn't rise to the occasion
Mm.
because it was just that was his shock. It was the shocking awe, like, oh my God, this is happening, and then he couldn't get an erection
Yeah.
because it was too much.
Yeah, that happens. That
so
happens.
So yeah, I just think I appreciate the realism. So at least our listener Kelly can make an informed decision, and hopefully, if you decide to, your partner just agrees to do it.
Yeah,
I hope
go
it's
for it.
pleasurable for everyone.
Yeah, use
Yeah.
condoms. Go for it and use condoms because you don't want any other surprises.
Facts. All right. So our second question, it wasn't more so like a personal question, but it was just more, hey Boonie, I've been listening to the podcast for a while. I love your episodes, but I just wanted to get more tips. I haven't seen any episodes dedicated to anal play. If you have
Okay.
any tips for someone who is interested in this, I've never done anal sex. I am a woman. I am with a guy as my partner, but I want to bring it up to him for us to both explore anal play.
Okay.
Help.
I don't know what she means by, but okay. Well, I'm just going to start at just
I,
period.
yeah,
Because
I'm
that
gonna
can be
because
taken
the
different
both was
ways.
capitalized, so I'm wondering if she's talking about a pegging situation.
Pegging. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, either or, like, it doesn't matter because it's typically the same for both men and women. So I will say to always start slow and start small. And what I mean by that is possibly visiting a sex shop and looking at butt plugs or anal plugs, small ones, because they come in all different sizes. They can get as big as a
Yes, they do.
fist. So like starting off with small butt plug or anal plug and some lube, and really playing around. Masturbation, this is where masturbation comes in, and really seeing what feels good to you, right? That's where I will
Mm.
start. And also, when you're playing around with sex toys, make sure it has a pull loop, so a pull ring, or that the base is flared. So the base of the anal plug needs to be larger than the anal plug itself, because your butt is like a
Mm.
vacuum and it can suck things up there, and you don't want to go to the emergency room so they can fish an anal plug out your butt, but it happens. But yeah, so I would say start small, start with something like that. You could also use your fingers. Just make sure you use lots and lots and lots of lube, because the anus does not lubricate like that. Like your vagina gets really wet and things like that, the anus does not do that. And
Yeah,
so
and
once you go ahead.
no, you got.
And so once you get comfortable with having something being inserted, because what the problem is, we're not used to getting things put up our butts, right? So it's something that we have to practice and get used to because we clench. You have to
Yep.
learn to relax. So that's why I say start small, start with a finger, start with a small butt plug, use lots of lube. And if you're with your partner, have him start, using a finger. Like, okay, I'll, one finger, two fingers, and then you graduate, go from there. Then when you think you're ready, then you can go for the big boy and put the penis up there. But make sure you use lots of lube so that you don't have any tearing or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, because you really don't want that. So like I said, it's just starting slow. Just starting slow. And as
Starting
far as
slow.
I don't know if she wants to be in a pegging situation. I don't know, but that's something she would have to discuss with um, her partner to make sure that he's comfortable with that first, right?
Yeah,
And
consent.
yeah, so make sure he's comfortable. And if he is not comfortable, you have to respect that. But if he's willing to try it out, while she's giving him some oral sex, brush a finger or knuckle down there to get him used to that sensation. But also, like I said, use lube. And, probably when he's ready, you can insert a finger, then insert two, and then go from there and see how he feels. And then if he's like, hey, I love this, I want to go for the big gusto, then you all can go out, go shopping, buy a small dildo or whatever, or buy some butt plugs and have at it,
There you go.
you know? Yeah, just a
I will
conversation.
say I was pleasantly surprised that anal could be pleasurable.
hmm It's pleasurable for a lot of
Um,
people, yes.
yeah, it was lube is your friend,
hmm
as Dr. Hall said. But I'm just like, I think that was the biggest surprise to me because it is not a natural, like you say, you clench up, you get so tense.
Yes.
But once if you the relax and like, okay, breathe, I was like, okay,
hmm
I'm all right with this. Now
Yes.
it's not on the menu every day, but it it was something that I was very pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah, it just takes a practice and a little work and patience. So
Yes.
what some people get really frustrated because like, oh, it's not working, but it's just like I said, just practice. You may not get it the first time, you may not get it the first couple of times, but it'll get easier as you keep practicing and your body gets used to that feeling and that sensation. I always tell people, of course, always use condoms. And so, yeah, you'll get used to it. And like if your partner, whatever he wants to do, just talk with him first because you don't want to put a finger up a butt when somebody don't know. You don't want to catch
Yeah,
somebody off
don't.
guard with that. So yeah. But she said it sounds like she's gonna try to convince him to engage in some pegging action. So yeah,
Yeah,
that should be
that's what it looked like it was leaning to. Next time, do not make us read between the lines. Send exactly
yes.
what you want answered.
I want to know. It's like, are you trying to? Do you already have a strap on? Like, are you just ready to pull out? Like, what's going on here? So
Yeah, because both was in capital letters. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna infer here that this is what you're saying because that's what I got.
that's what I was thinking too. But hey, so yeah, she just start small, get out, and I would suggest. I'm a fan of silicone lube when it comes to anal sex because the slip is better and it doesn't dry up as fast as water based lube. So
Hmm.
that's a tip.
And don't be afraid to like, if you think it's not enough, it's not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be so
Yeah.
slippery where you're just gliding like that.
Yes.
It should be like no friction, so much lube.
Yes. Lube, lube, lube.
Yes.
All right. So we're at the breakdown. And I am going to say one word, and you can say the first thing that comes to mind. It
Oh
can be
goodness.
another word, a phrase, a sound, whatever.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Okay.
Everybody's always afraid. It's not that bad, I promise. Pleasure.
Sex. It's coming to my mind, yeah.
Anal beads.
You know what? A color came to my mind. Do not ask me why. Clear, because I don't know. I feel like I see a lot of clear anal beads. So clear came to my mind when I used the anal beads.
Clear. Okay. Communication.
Oh wow. Communication. Um I'll say honesty. Honesty.
Orgasms.
Awesome. Great. That's the only word. Awesome.
Condoms.
Safety.
Groping.
High school. That sounds like such a high school thing. I think about the boys who used to like try to pinch the girls' butts and run,
Punch a
like,
butt.
which is not good. I am not promoting rape culture, but that's they used to do that in high school.
Kinks.
Oh, I probably telling myself spanking. I don't know. Every time I think of kink, I think of spanking.
That's your thing?
Possibly.
Last one. Wait a minute. Did I write two? I wrote two down at the same one. Okay, I'm on the cuff. What another one? I can't think of one. Sexuality.
Fluid.
All right, because you said it. Now we need a real quick course in fluid. Because I feel like that's another word people hear a lot.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And it gives some type of reaction.
Okay, so when I say fluid, when I think of sexuality, I don't feel that our sexuality is just set in stone from when we're
Okay.
born. We learn and we grow and we change throughout our lives in every aspect of our lives. And so does our sexuality. What we like when we're teenagers changes when we're in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s. And that can be in regards to anything when it comes to our sexuality. It can be your sexual orientation, it can be your gender identity, it can be your romantic orientation, it can be your outlook on relationships. So you possibly was a person like, I am a strict monogamous, but now I'm into ethical non-monogamy, all of those different things. So I feel like our sexuality, it just grows with us throughout our lifetime and it's fluid. But a lot of times, of course, you hear fluid in other ways when people are talking about their sexual orientation or when they're talking about their gender identity. But I think of sexuality as a whole as something that's ever changing, something that is not static. So that's what I mean by fluid.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. If you can tell everyone where they can find you on the internet, any services you offer, your social media, and I will be sure to link all of this in the show notes.
Yes, so I can be found on Instagram at the Sensible Sexpert. Check out my website, thesensiblesexpert.com. I'm also on Facebook at the Sensible Sexpert. So all of my stuff is the Sensible Sexpert.
Easy.
Yes, easy. And so the services I offer one-on-one Hey Doc Hey sessions where I talk and I hold space for people to have hard conversations about sexuality, easy conversations about sexuality, or anything that they would like to ask and they want to talk to someone in confidence. I provide that. I also do workshops. I provide media consultation. So I do a variety of things. So those are typically my services.
Awesome. So I will again link all of this in the show notes and on the booniebreakdown.com.
Yay.
So Wendasha, Dr. Wendasha, thank you so much for coming on.
Me.
This was awesome. And I hope people learned something new in this episode because I did. Or at least it got me thinking about something I hadn't thought about before. So thank you.
Great.
So thanks again.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. I want to thank Dr. Hall for coming on the podcast. I know you guys learned something new in this episode because I did too. The conversation about kinks and fetishes, I kind of feel like we should go deeper in that in a future episode. So stick around for that, okay? And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or any app that you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Don't forget to leave those reviews too. We're so close to 100, guys. I appreciate you, and you can hear your review on the next episode. Follow us on all social media. Share the episode with those you love, those you don't love, those you fucking hate. I don't make these pretty images for nothing, okay? Have a dope ass week. Stay healthy, stay sane, stay y'all asses in the house so we can get out. Thank you for listening. And remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Namaste. Until next time.